So the last phase, I have two final steps to my paintings, and one is my gift to you, or actually it's my gift to myself. I write on the sides of the paintings maybe a thought for the day, and I have some go-to quotations that I've developed over the time that have become my mantra. So when I'm at this phase of my paintings, I sit down and I get into a quiet space, turn off the music to figure out what words are appropriate for the paintings. So off the top of my head, I have quotations that I use. And when I write the quotations on the sides of the paintings, I use a liquid acrylic and I use carbon black, one that's very opaque. So I'm going to put on the side of this one of my go-to quotes. It's, "We have very little time, we must move very slowly," and that's an old Chinese proverb. And I will write, Chinese proverb. And I think I got that from a book that I read, or sometimes I go to brainyquotes.com to get quotations. Oh, if you notice, I wipe my excess water off on my armpit. That's why my armpit looks like it does. All right, so we have very little time. We do have very little time. I use a thin, round brush and liquid paint, liquid acrylic. Again, here I just let my penmanship show. I don't try to do it perfect. We have very little time. We must move very slowly. When I paint, I also listen to podcasts or books on tape. And one of my favorite podcasts is called On Being, where Krista Tippett interviews people about what it's like to be a human in today's world. And I heard this great quote by the writer Wendell Berry, writer and naturalist, and he said in the interview, anything that gets you to slow down is a gift. So that, from listening to that interview, I wrote that down, and then that becomes wisdom for the sides of my painting. Anything that gets you to slow down is a gift. And so then while I'm writing these words, I start thinking, well, what is it that gets me to slow down? A slow driver in front of me, a baby who needs to be held and rocked. And these are things that if we are going, these are things that I tend to curse. And so then I'll add little, my own little saying. So let's watch. Anything in this world that gets you to slow down is a blessing, not a curse. So I'll add my own little words to it, but I'll still give Wendell Berry, credit for the original thought. Is a blessing. Now here I can make a decision. Do I write blessing over here? Or do I write it down here? Either way, it shows that I'm not too finicky. I mean, you're still going to get this message. But look, I'm not too worried that, oh my gosh, this side isn't perfect. It's not leaving enough room. And I think that's kind of what makes Southern folk art interesting to me, is the way they'll just keep going on with a thought, even though they ran out of room for it. I'm just going to show you by this that I'm just going to go on with this thought, because the thought is so much more important, and my intention of getting this thought out into the world is so much more important than whether I did it perfectly or not. Now that I have the words on, we've built up layers, they're ready for their varnish and to find a home. So we've come to the part of my process that is my favorite part. It's coating the painting with a varnish. Sometimes and I'm going to use Joe's Prime Really Good Satin Varnish. I know that he has different, or that Cheap Joe's has different varnish types, like a high gloss or a matte finish. I don't like the matte finish. I like the little bit of glossiness that, something about the shine pulls everything together for me. So I'll go with a satin or a gloss. And I'll work on this surface right now. So when I pour it out, it's white. But when it dries, it'll dry nice and clear, and it adds another layer of texture to the painting. And I think it just holds that color in there, and then it makes it waterproof too. So, and I'm not offended when people hang my paintings in their bathrooms or in their kitchens. Those are places where we often have to slow down, and so my reminders come in handy. And I'm going to go ahead, and you can coat it on like that. It's going to dry clear. It is not ruining my painting at all. It's enhancing it, protecting it, and everything. And that'll give it a little bit of texture in a neat way. There, I'm sealing in those words. Anything in this world that gets you to slow down is a blessing. Thank you, Wendell Berry. And I'm going to do the sides. That way, when if dust settles on the painting, you can just wipe it off with a wet rag and not hurt it. So when I make art, well, when I make these paintings on this size, on this reclaimed wood, I really do make it with the intent of it finding a home and brightening people's day. And this art supports my bigger art in a few ways. It's the bread and butter of my art. I sell these, make money. It buys my bigger canvases and more paint so that I can do those big canvases, which nourish me in a totally different way. They allow that true experimental artist in me to come out. So these paintings give me the inspiration, the time, and the money to do bigger work. So I really cherish these little guys, and it's a pleasure to make them. Let's coat this one. Oh, there's a little bit of yellow left over. I should probably... I'm not worried about that yellow because it's dry, but it might be throwing the viewer off. So let's put it on a piece of... I'm going to put the varnish on this palette paper. So the varnish is white, but it'll dry clear. So don't be shy about putting it on there. It's probably will start drying as we sit here coating our other ones. We have very little time. We must move very slowly. So true. And again, do the sides so that they can be dusted easily. But let's be honest, how often are we going to dust our paintings? So these are varnished, and it just needs to dry. This white will dry clear, and it'll be beautiful. And while that's drying, let's look at all the different steps we went through to review how we get to a final Moni Hill painting.